All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi Stadium with the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update. And of course, check out Pig and a Pickle. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go ahead, Damon and Mary, and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. Well, interesting day down here in Santa Clara today. 49ers fresh off of an extended rest after playing last Thursday against the New York Giants, and now they are getting ready for the Arizona Cardinals to roll in here on Sunday. And the Cardinals are coming in with a head of steam because they just upset the Dallas Cowboys last weekend. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the happenings down here in Santa Clara. There were a number of transactions today. Earlier in the week, the Niners had added Jeremy McNichols, who was in camp at the tail end of camp, to the roster and dropped Troy Fumagalli. Today, the 49ers added a tight end, Jake Tungs, to the practice squad, the former Cal Bear, who's 24, 6'4", 240-pound linebacker, 10-inch hands, Bay Area kid. He went to Los Gatos High School, played 5 seasons at Cal and was undrafted in 2022, played with the Chicago Bears. 4.77 speed coming out. He had 47 receptions at Cal for 620 yards and 4 touchdowns. So they added him to the practice squad. The 49ers also signed safety Trey Norwood, the former Oklahoma Sooner. He's 24, 6 feet, about 195 pounds. He was a 7th-round pick by the Steelers in the 2021 draft. Norwood's played 32 NFL games, 6 starts. He's had 55 tackles and 1 interception to his credit. And the Niners also signed the former Buckeyes cornerback, Kendall Sheffield, who I kind of think is probably the best player of these 3. Sheffield is 27. He's a 5'10", 210-pound corner, 4th-round pick by the Falcons in 2019. He's played in 38 NFL games, 20 starts. He's had a couple forced fumbles and 97 tackles. He's also played with the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. So Kendall Sheffield, Trey Norwood, and Jake Tungs come in, and then Jeremy McNichols goes out. So McNichols was added and then subtracted to make room for these other guys. Couple other things, of course, Niners playing really good on both sides of the ball. On offense, they're averaging 30 points a game. They've scored exactly 30 in all 3 games. Defensively, the 49ers through 3 weeks are 4th in defensive DVOA, and they've been very impressive on both sides of the ball. As far as injuries, there were some surprises today. Deebo Samuel, according to Kyle Shanahan, is not just out with sore ribs. He's now out with some form of a knee injury. I asked Deebo where he felt like he hurt the knee, and he said that he didn't know. He said he didn't know where he hurt it. Now, I watched the film back a couple times, and to me, I think he might have hurt it on that first drive where he was on the New York Giants sideline, and it looked like he banged his knee really hard on the sideline. Now, he popped right back up. He finished the game, but a lot of that is just adrenaline in the moment. I don't think it's a knee injury like an ACL or anything like that. I think it's more like a deep bone bruise, but he did not practice today, and we don't know about his status for Sunday. So Deebo could miss Sunday. He's got sore ribs, he's got a sore knee, and didn't practice today. The 2 other guys that did not practice today, one was Juwan Jennings. Jennings is battling a shin injury, probably also a bruise, and then Dre Greenlaw told me after the game against the Giants that he rolled his ankle. So it's a lower ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain for Greenlaw. So will he be able to go on game day? My guess is he will, but you never know. The Niners may keep him out against the Cardinals and get him ready for the Cowboys in a week. Now, also today, limited at practice, Brandon Ayuk was limited with a shoulder. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles was limited with an ankle injury, I think it was an ankle injury for him, and then Ambry Thomas with a knee injury. So those guys were limited in practice today. Kyle Shanahan revealed to us in his sit-down with us before practice that he and John Lynch agreed to contract extensions prior to the beginning of the year. So it wasn't like, hey, they got off to a hot 3-0 start, and that's why they gave him a contract extension, or a hot 2-0 start. They actually agreed to these contract extensions prior to Pittsburgh, and Kyle said it was important to get it done just to, before the season started. We don't know how many years he's signed, but he said that it was a deal done prior to week one. And of course, that duo has been with the 49ers running this franchise since 2017. Kyle also talked a little bit today, and basically said that he basically discussed how his new deal. That he discussed a little bit about his new deal and talked about how he's got a trust in the building. And there's a trust that he has with John Lynch, and there's a trust that he has with Jed York. And he says Jed has never changed or wavered in any way in, hey, we're going to build this the right way. We're going to do it slowly. We're not going to, no quick fixes. And he says Jed stayed the course. He's never wavered in his in how he wants to go about things, and Kyle really appreciated that. Kyle also talked about how he spent the bye week. He said he went to his daughter's cheerleading competition and also watched a little bit of Dallas, Arizona on his phone on Sunday. I asked him a little bit about Jonathan Gannon, who is the former defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he just said, hey, it's a sound scheme, it's a tough scheme. There are some differences, with different personnel, but he said it's a tough scheme to prepare for. Talked about how Arizona's very committed to running the ball with James Conner. And then when he was asked about Joshua Dobbs, he said, hey, look, the guy's mobile, he's decisive, and thus far he's been able to minimize mistakes. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Then we went into the locker room after Shanahan spoke and had a chance to talk to a few guys. Nick Bosa was asked, what he appreciates about Shanahan. And he says that, he just appreciates two things, really, the organizational stability. And he says, from talking to his brother and some other, his other friends around the NFL, that, organizational stability is not a given. And the fact that the Niners have that here is something that he really appreciates. And he also said that he appreciates how Kyle Shanahan is an offensive guy, but that he prioritizes D-line play, and that he understands that D-line play is the big key to winning football games. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I went into the room and had a chance to talk to both Warren Burks and Braden Willis. Burks was the Niners' leading tackler last week, and talked about the importance of stopping James Conner and having a coordinated rush against Joshua Dobbs. Willis, I had a chance to sit down with for about 10, 12 minutes, and he told me that he actually watches his Oklahoma Sooners every Saturday and is doing a Sooners podcast with some of their current players. So he's still very much dialed in on his Oklahoma Sooners. But we talked about a number of things. I talked to him about how he buried the New York Giants outside linebacker in a block, and he said that, he really appreciated it, and that, it was his first big moment in the NFL. He said his teammates, loved it when they saw it back on the film. And then we talked a little bit about the keys to blocking, and he said, first and foremost, it's about desire. And then it's a lot about your first step. It's about your hat placement, helmet placement, if you will. And he also just kind of talked about how blocking is, very much tied to technique. And that if you have the proper technique, you're going to be a good blocker. But it all starts with your desire. You have to want to be violent. You have to want to make contact. And a lot of it comes down to desire. And he said he's learned a lot from watching George Kittle and Charlie Warner this summer. We talked a little bit about his youth career. He said he played quarterback and wide receiver in high school. He's from Fort Worth, Texas, so next week's going to be big for him. He was a childhood fan of the Cowboys, so it's going to be big for Braden Willis to play against the Cowboys. I said, hey, did you buy your family all the Niner gear? And he's like, oh, yeah. He's got them all decked out in Niner gear. The men and women in his family all are decked out in Niner gear. So we talked a little bit about that. I asked him about Arizona, and he said, what really stands out on film is that Arizona plays hard, and they're physical, and that he felt like that they're similar to what the Eagles were last year, largely because of Jonathan Gannon. And then we also talked a little bit about about the touchdown throw that Brock Purdy made, the anticipatory touchdown throw that he made to Ronnie Bell. And we focused a little bit on Ronnie Bell, who's also a rookie. And he said, he felt like Brock did an incredible job in that entire New York game dealing with the exotic blitzes that New York brought. And he said, we may not face a team all year that brings as many blitzes as the Giants did. So it was a great test for the team. But then he also singled out Ronnie Bell. And he talked about how Ronnie Bell, like he said, I could say I'm surprised that Ronnie Bell made that great catch at the pylon and got his feet down. He goes, but I'm really not surprised because Ronnie's been doing that all camp long. And he's like come to expect Ronnie to make these incredible catches. And he's got great hand-eye coordination and great refinement as a player. And he just shouted out his rookie wide receiver there, Ronnie Bell. All right, that's going to do it for the Krug Show 49er update video. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue there is in the Bay. It's all good, but get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.